You're watching Inside Utah Politics.
Time now to debate some of the big stories of the week with our panel. This week we have State Representative Carol Spackman-Moss and Adam Gardner. Great to have both of you with us. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So we're highlighting the Salt Lake County Sheriff's race on this show, so let's go ahead and start with that. Carol, let's start with you. What has Sheriff Rivera done that voters should look at and say, yeah, she deserves a term, another term?
Well, I think her focus is really on prevention and treatment rather than incarceration. I think that's been a focus of what she's done. Prevention is really important to her. Opioid abuse, domestic violence, those really important issues. She's really stepped up and looked at that. And I think she's done a really good job. She's very collaborative. She's low-key, she de-escalates. I've seen her in situations on television at a crisis situation. She always is calm, collected. I really like her style. I think it's really effective.
Adam, Justin Hoyle running on the Republican side. Is it time for voters to make a change there?
Well, and that's obviously the voters' decision to make. I was thinking about what to say and why I like Justin Hoyle and some of the talking points, and really what it came down to was I'm up for election this year, and so we've gotten a chance to talk, and I've gotten a chance to see him speak many times and interact with voters and other police officers, and really I've just been very impressed. He has the resume. He has 21 plus years of experience in law enforcement. He's been a chief, a lieutenant, and a sergeant over different units all over the county, and so he has the resume part. And there was one thing that he said that really stuck out to me. He said, candidates a lot of times will campaign on being hard on crime or soft on crime or incarceration versus treatment. And his theme has kind of been just be smart on crime, that we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. And some people really need to be locked up and incarcerated, and some people really need the treatment part. And so we should have the data by now. We've locked up we know a lot of people in Salt Lake County, so we should have the data, what types of inmates are in there. And so I think since the data's there and Justin Hoyle is the one that's qualified to actually be smart on crime and decide what to do with those inmates, I think he's the right man for the job.
Okay, one quick point I want to hit on this race. It's, you know, a big deal has been made out of the exit from both Harriman and Riverton from Unified Police Department. You know, Hoyle taking a look at that and saying that's a lack of failure in leadership on the sheriff's behalf. How much should voters put into that one single point in this race?
Well, I don't think it's valid to say it's a result of her leadership. I don't think that at all. I mean, I think that's something that they've probably been contemplating for a long time. So it's something that came before, and those agreements were made. If they were contracts, they were made before Rosie was sheriff. And so I don't think they have anything to do with her leadership. I think it's, and she's perfectly agreeable to that, because if they want local control and they want to handle it themselves, then that's their right to do it.
Justin says that's a big problem that these cities are leaving, and he does think it is a leadership problem. Your thoughts and how much voters should look into that?
Well, voters should definitely look into it. Voters aren't just electing the sheriff, someone that's the head of the jail. They're also electing someone who's the CEO of UPD, and that's really important. So Harriman has had a new mayor and a new council, and they've come in and immediately decided that they needed to get out of UPD, and that's been a real problem. We've also seen it in Riverton, where they had an emergency meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning because of a lack of transparency that they were getting from the sheriff's office. They didn't know how much how much of their budgets were going to their city, and there was a real lack of communication there. And so I think that does reflect leadership. If I ran my office that way, it would reflect upon my leadership. And so I think Justin Hoyle has the communication skills. He was a PIO before for the county sheriff's office, and so I think he's really the one that can bring those cities together.
Well, can I just say,
sure, one last thought.
Remember how long she's been in. What has it been, 6 months? So I mean, I don't think the blame, if there's blame,
Sure.
really should go to her. I mean, maybe it goes back a little bit further, but she's been in leadership positions for 17 years, so she understands that, and she understands the budget, which is huge.
Okay. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, she's been in for a year. She was a little over a year. She was elected the week before I filled my term,
Okay.
so we came in together.
So it was a year.
And if you look at their resumes, other than her time, you know, that year plus as sheriff, they're pretty similar. They have a lot of similar
No, that's right.
experiences. All right, let's move on to another hot topic. The Federal Elections Commission coming down on Representative Mia Love's campaign over potentially improperly collecting funds for a primary election that never happened. CNN reporting this north of $1 million. Her campaign disputing that, saying it's much lower. But regardless of what it is, I think they definitely have admitted that there is some money that was collected in that situation. How much will this affect the race?
You want to go first?
Hey, sure. So let me just say that when I heard that that was a law, I had to go look it up and find out exactly what the regulations were. And I've been in politics for a little while. And the FEC
Career politician.
Career politician. I have been in a year, so it's a career. So if they were that convoluted for me, and I worked on a congressional campaign, and so I had to really do my research. And I'm just thinking for myself, if it's this convoluted for me to find out what the rules are, and if it was illegal, yes, and she's returning the money, that's great. But voters, I don't think voters care about the amount of money that you raise, and I think it's more important from who did you raise the money and that you're transparent.
Oh, voters care. This is one of the major issues that voters have with politicians these days, is raising money, especially on a congressional race. And that's a weak excuse to say it's convoluted. She has great people. She has the best. Dave Hansen. They know the laws. They know what they're doing. I think it's a really a big concern. I think the voters, you're going to see a change in the numbers, because
So you think it will have an impact on the numbers?
I really do, because that's a lot of money. And there was no primary opponent in sight. Nobody had filed by March 15th. They couldn't have run. So she was continuing to collect money even after she was nominated in the convention.
Okay, any last thought on that before we move on to one final topic?
We'll find out in November. We're going to see a lot more of this tit for tat.
Yeah.
And
I think this one's definitely going to get more heated as we come down the stretch.
It will.
Okay, real quick, kind of a surprise poll coming out of the 2nd Congressional District showing Representative Stewart only up by 11 points. Now, that's a nice lead, but still not comparable to past polls with Democratic challenger Shireen Ghorbani. Do we all of a sudden have a 2nd district that's in play now?
I think so. She is an amazing communicator, and she's genuine, and she's real, and she's out there working so hard, really meeting people. And that's the biggest complaint about Chris Stewart. He's not around. He rarely does town hall meetings, and the Trump effect is hurting him too. I mean, people do not like Trump here, even Republicans, because I'm out all the time working and walking in neighborhoods, canvassing, and I think that's really going to hurt him, because he's supported not only Trump, but his policies, and I think Shireen may be a real surprise here.
Comparatively speaking to other members of the congressional delegation, he has held more town halls than most of the others. So I just want to make that one point. Yeah. This is a reliably red district. What are we seeing here?
well, so first of all, I've watched live feeds on this network of him doing town halls at West High School in the heart of the liberal part of his district, and I think he's done a great job out there meeting voters. And when we talk about he's up by 11 points, this is a plus or minus 7-point poll, and so he could be up much further than that. I think that will be the case. I think he's going to pull out a 60% plus win.
Right. Exciting election as we move forward
Really
here.
is, yeah.
Great to have you with us.
Thanks, Ben.
Stay with us. We'll be right back with more Inside Utah Politics right after the break.